about the Gentiles for? They're going to be our slaves one day. And things like this just always stuck in the back of my mind.
They openly talk about Gentiles being slaves.
Do you believe that the Gentiles, the Goyim, will one day become the slaves of the Jews?
So I believe it's part of the Torah.
אתה חושב שהגויים יהיו עבדים של היהודים יום אחד?
אמורים להיות.
אוקיי, מה זאת אומרת? כאילו, אמורים להיות?
לפי מה שכתוב בתורה, הגויים אמורים להיות העבדים שלנו.
אוקיי, אתה חושב שזה באמת יהיה?
כאילו מן אללה.
האם אתה מאמין שהגויים יהיו עבדים של היהודים יום אחד?
כן, זה כתוב בתורה.
אוקיי, ומה זה אומר?
אני מאמין.
כן? ומה כתוב? כתוב בפירוש שהגויים יהיו עבדים שלנו?
כן, כתוב שאחרי ביאת המשיח, אני אומר, כתוב אחרי ביאת המשיח, אני לא יכול להביא את הפסוק המדויק, אבל כתוב שאחרי ביאת המשיח יהיה מלחמה מאוד מאוד גדולה, ובסופו של דבר כן, הגויים יהיו עבדים של היהודים במשך תקופה, ואחרי זה העולם יחזור כאילו לקדמותו. זה מה שאני...
אוקיי.
הם חיות, הם קרויים מאוד, כתוב אתם קרויים מאוד, ואין הם קרויים מאוד. נכון, לא כתוב
יש איזה הסבר על זה,
רגע, זה מה שאני רוצה להבין. רגע, שקט. אז כן, מה כתוב? זה מה שאני לא מבין.
כתוב שאתם קרויים אדם, והגויים לא קרויים אדם. זה מה שכתוב.
לא קרויים?
לא קרויים אדם, לא קוראים להם אדם.
אוקיי, אז מה קוראים להם?
אדם זה
אדם הוא בן אדם שהוא שונה מהבהמה.
עכשיו, הגויים מה שאין, כן? אלוקים עשה אותם בשביל שיעשו פה...
בשביל לשרת את היהודים. כל הגויים שאתה רואה שיש בעולם, המיליארדים האלה, הם הכל רק בשביל שהיהודים יהיה להם איזה תועלת.
עכשיו,
אנחנו לא רואים את זה, אנחנו לא יודעים בדיוק.
היות ואנחנו בגלות, אז אוטומטי עדיין הם מאוד לא משרתים אותנו לגמרי, רק חלקית.
כל אחד יהיה לו, כשמשיח יבוא, אז כל אחד יהיה לו
יהיה לו
אלפים עבדים.
2,800. בינתיים המשיח לא כאן, אז איך הם משרתים אותנו?
הם בונים לנו רכבים, דירות, בניינים, הם בונים את זה. לנו, משרתים את היהודים.
אבל יש גם יהודים שעושים את זה.
בקושי.
Do they deserve the same rights? Let's put it that way. Jews, non-Jews, anyone who lives here, let's say, does everyone deserve the same, treated the same? Let's put it that way.
I think not. I think that this is the nation of the Jews, that the Jews should have more rights than the non-Jews.
Like, give me an example of a right that a Jew should have that a non-Jew shouldn't.
Amalek comes from Esav. Esav was a brother to Jacob.
Esav, who in modern day terms is really basically, certainly one of them is America. Esav became Edom, which is a nation. Edom became Rome. Instead of it being Rome, it became Christianity. Christianity, of course, ultimately became Western civilization. So Esav today is really Western civilization.
So who's Edom? Edom includes most of Europe. It includes the United States of America. It's the Roman Empire that was never destroyed.
Who is Rome and so on? Who is Esav? Because Esav is not only a persecutory agent, but it's the greatest of all the persecutory agents, and it is the longest. It's been around with us as not in the form of Rome, which I will mention, but it has been around for a long time, thousands of years. And therefore Esav is the greatest of the persecutory nations, and it is the longest. It all started, of course, with Esav. Esav became Edom, which is a nation. Edom became Rome. The Torah says Esav is Edom. The Gemara says, the Talmud says, that Edom is Rome, Zuroimi. Okay. But what's interesting, of course, is that God decided that He doesn't want a nation, or rather Rome, a nation to be greatest persecutory agent for the Jews, because that would mean that until the Mashiach comes, Rome has to be the major dominant force or nation in the entire world. And God does not want that. As it is, Rome was, a nation for at least probably close to 1,000 years. And then the one in Constantinople went even another 1,000 years after that. So what God did, which is interesting, he changed the form of Esav. Instead of it being Rome, it became Christianity.
In the book of Exodus and also in the book of Deuteronomy, we speak about the mitzvah to destroy and to annihilate the nation of Amalek. Says the Rambam in Mitzvah 188 and also 189 and also in Negative Commandment 59 that there's a mitzvah and a command to wipe out from among all the descendants of Esav, the descendants of Amalek, male and female, young and old. And the Sifri goes on to say, how do we do this today? We remember, which means to remember it verbally, and do not forget it means not to forget it in one's heart. What was so terrible about Amalek? So the Talmud tells us, based on the verses in the Torah, that Amalek was the first one to attack the Jewish people when they left the land of Egypt. And he says the root of this commandment is to implant into our hearts that any enemy that oppresses the Jewish people are considered to be an enemy against God. And therefore, according to their evil and their cunningness of their plans, so too will be their punishment and their downfall. And therefore we find by Amalek, they wanted to harm the Jews, and they were the first to harm the Jews. Therefore, God tells us we should erase their memory, and we should eradicate them from the face of the earth.
Why isn't Hashem's chair complete, intact, until Amalek will be finally destroyed? That's what Hashem himself says. My chair, the chair of justice, the chair on which Hashem Kavyachol sits on, is not intact until the day will come when Hashem eliminates Amalek. And the last question is, what will happen in the very, very end to Amalek? Will he be eliminated? How will this happen? When will it happen?
Because Amalek is darkness. They're the antithesis to godliness and holiness. Everything the Jewish nation stands for, humility, godliness, light, they are darkness. And we are commanded to destroy this, because Amalek is not only a physical nation, it's a spiritual energy. It's a negative force of darkness.
It's mitzvah from the Torah. One of the 613 commandments is to remember to erase the nation of Amalek, the memory of them even, not only physically to erase them from the face of the earth. Anything that reminds us about them is mitzvah to dismiss and to erase it from the face of the earth.
The Rambam says that there are 3 mitzvahs that the Jewish people were commanded to do when they entered into the land of Israel. And they are, number 1, to establish a king for themselves. Number 2, ulahachriz zarei shel Amalek, and to cut off the offsprings of the nation of Amalek. And number 3, the livnais beis habechira, and to build a holy temple.
This needs to be frankly admitted by Jews all over the world, that there are, without doubt, Jews involved in those movements and those organizations, very often NGOs, etc., who promote this phenomenon of third world immigration into the Western countries.
Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role. But without that leading role and without that transformation, Europe will not survive. Europe will not survive.
Die hatten nicht vor, in die Hosentaschen zu gehen. Nein.
The German state of Bavaria has seen a nearly 50% rise in rape cases this year, while the number of rapes involving migrants has nearly doubled.
Das ist Deutschland. Hier werden Frauen geschlagen, hier werden Kinder geschändet und entführt.
Europe will not survive.
The biggest genocide in human history. The final solution of the Christian European problem. This crime demands a new set of Nuremberg trials, and you people will be in the dock.
The idea of having these refugees come into Europe, it's no longer a matter of whether it's right or wrong. It's just simply a fulfillment of what it was meant to be all along. This is the fulfillment of the Hazal and the prophecies. This has to happen, and this is just another sign that we are nearing, the completion of this tikkun of the entire world.
Le Mashiach viendra que quand Édom, l'Europe, la chrétienté sera totalement tombée. Donc je vous pose la question, c'est une bonne nouvelle que l'islam envahisse l'Europe? C'est une excellente nouvelle, ça annonce la venue de Mashiach. Excellente nouvelle.
Asking what's going to be with the Goyim when Mashiach comes. Will they be destroyed and annihilated? Who cares? Someone asked, who cares? Okay. As a nation, they'll cease to exist, even as individuals. Every individual, no survivors. Not only as a nation, they'll cease to exist, even as individuals. As Goyim, they're gone. Their personality, as they exist b'fnei atzmam, as they would exist independently of Klal Yisrael, they don't exist. They're done. In modern terminology, they call it cultural genocide. There's a term for it by the progressives. It's called cultural genocide, and they use the word genocide. So that's the opinion who says v'karka kol b'nei sheis that they'll be annihilated. They basically learn there's going to be cultural genocide. That the goyim as they exist as goyim b'fnei atzmam, that's done with. Batul u'mavutul.
dance until the morning light.